At SCV, anytime we learn drill, clean drill, or even think about drill, our approach is based on a coordinate grid. At its most basic level, this approach helps us determine where we're supposed to be in any given set of the show. As we progress further, we're going to use the same skills to subdivide the space in between each set. Ultimately, our goal is to use all of the markings on the field, all of the reference points, to make our movement between each coordinate as even and as consistent as possible. That being said, we need to start by learning how to find a coordinate in the first place. Here you can see an NCAA field, that is, the college markings that we use during the summer, and it's been subdivided into a grid of 8 to 5 steps. You should have a separate sheet detailing the dimensions of this field and the locations of every single marking that we're going to encounter all season long. It's a good idea to print out that sheet and keep it next to you as we go through all of these skills. When we learn drill, you're going to receive a coordinate sheet, and on it you'll see lots of sets that look something like this. For each set, your coordinate will be made up by a left to right component and a front to back. In this set, we're located 2 inside the side 1 25-yard line and 4 in front of the front sideline hash. Now that just means the front hash. And the sheet also reminds us that we're using the NCAA hash. Now, there's a lot of extra verbiage here, and eventually we're going to write these down in our dot books, so we're going to want to condense all of this down into a shorter form. Let's rewrite it this way. Our left to right is going to become 2 in 25 S1, where S1 stands for side 1, and the front to back becomes 4 FFH, where FFH stands for in front of the front hash. Those abbreviations should be on your reference sheet. Let's also say that the top of the screen is the front of the field, where the audience is. That way, we're approaching things from exactly the same perspective that we would be using if we were standing on the field in a rehearsal. Let's start by finding our left to right. We know that we are on side 1, which from this perspective is going to be the right half of the field. Let's get closer and find the 25-yard line. Now, we're 2 steps inside the 25, which means toward the 50. So we're going to start here on the 25 and mark off 2 steps toward the center of the field. Front to back, we are 4 in front of the front hash. So we start at that landmark and mark off 4 steps toward the front of the field. And there we are, 2 inside and 4 in front. Okay, let's try another. This time, our coordinate sheet tells us that we're 2.5 outside the side 2 45-yard line and 8 in front of the back sideline hash, which again, is just a long way of saying the back hash. Let's rewrite our coordinate in some sort of convenient shorthand, and let's agree again that the top of the screen is the front of the field. We see that we're over on side 2, which is the left side from our perspective. Since we're outside the yard line this time, we'll find the 45 and mark off 2.5 steps away from the 50. Front to back, we're 8 in front of the back hash, so we find that landmark and mark off 8 steps. It's important to mention at this point that if we were actually at a rehearsal, there's a better way to mark off our front to back. We always want to measure distance from the nearest landmark, and in this case, the center X, which is 10 steps from the hash, is much closer to our coordinate than the back hash. So it's better if we align ourselves with the X and mark off 2 steps toward the back hash. This way we reduce any potential error that we might have in the way that we mark off the set. In the end, we're standing 2.5 outside and 8 in front, or, even better, think about it as 2 behind the X. Let's try one more. This time we're 3.25 outside the side 2 30-yard line and 8.5 behind the front sideline. And yes, the sheet might say sideline, which is why we always start this process by rewriting our coordinate in a shorter form. With the front of the field at the top of the screen, our coordinate on side 2 will be on the left side of the field. So we head toward the 30-yard line. Then we mark off 3 1/4 steps outside the yard line. Again, outside is away from the 50. Front to back, we head to our landmark on the front sideline and step off 8 1/2 steps. Now, we know we're supposed to measure our coordinates from the nearest landmark. And if you know your markings, those NCAA numbers there look pretty close. If you take a look at the reference, you'll see that the bottoms of those numbers are 11 1/4 from the sideline, and they're much closer to our coordinate than the sideline itself. So, let's mark it off again. This time, we're going to mark it off 2 3/4 from the bottom of the NCAA numbers. We'll end up 3 1/4 outside and 8 1/2 behind, or you can think about it as 2 3/4 in front of the NCAA numbers.